Welcome to the In Love with PMDD podcast. I am your host, Rose, your PMDD relationship expert. I have personally been suffering with PMDD for over 15 years and spent so much time desperately trying to navigate my intimate relationships, going from breakup to breakup, thinking that everyone else was the problem. I am now married to an amazing PMDD partner thanks to the PMDD-specific relationship tools that I have developed over the years, and now I am here to share them with you. Because I know that there is not much research available to PMDD partners, I am now dedicating my doctorate practice specifically for PMDD relationships. I am a traumatology doctoral candidate, and each week I will be providing PMDD partners with my signature PMDD Trauma Transformational Tools on how to effectively navigate an intimate relationship while having PMDD, so that you can avoid the patterns of breaking up with your partner every single month, and you can finally have the supportive relationship that we all desire and deserve. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. Now let's get into your weekly dose of PMDD relationship tools. We got this. This disorder is so hard. PMDD is so hard. And I want you to know that just because you have the tools for your relationships, it doesn't mean that it's not going to be hard some days. I'm not telling you, I would never do that to you because I feel it. I would never tell you that you're not going to have hard days because I have hard days. I don't get a pass. Just because you're a healer, just because you're trying to help others, you don't get a pass with PMDD. And I just want you to know, I see you, I feel you, and I'm so sorry. So sorry for everything that you're having to go through. I'm sorry that you're feeling in pain. I'm sorry that you're feeling out of control. I'm sorry that it's ruining the best parts of your life, because I wish I could take that. I really believe that if I could take on the suffering of PMDD partners, I would, so that you don't have to feel this, because I know how awful it is. And I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And I'm here for you, but I'm really sorry. Today we're going to be talking about PMDD depression, and this is something that I have went through lately. If you're not following me on Instagram, I document my journey of PMDD, days 1 through 14. I have 14 days of PMDD. I have an array of symptoms that last throughout those days, but I talk to you each and every day about what I'm going through, the tools that I'm using to get through it. And this last PMDD, I'm not going to lie, I would say my cycle for PMDD is 14 days. And day 11, 12, 13, and 14, those last 4 days, depression was really, really hard for me. And it was something that I couldn't ignore. And it was something where I felt really helpless. And I recorded this message and shared this message that I'm sharing with you here on video to kind of show what I was going through during that day. And I remember I could barely say a sentence without breaking down and crying. Everything seemed so sad and so final. One of the things that depression does for me is that it takes my worst fears and runs them through my mind as if they were a reality. And I'm going to take you through that, not to scare you, not to make you feel down, but to let you know the ins and outs of what depression can do to you, so that you know that you're not alone. So when I was in depression, normally during PMDD, it brings up a lot of childhood trauma. And if you listen to my podcast, you know that I extensively have dealt with childhood trauma. And most recently, my biological father reached out to me before Father's Day. And, you know, he has a prior addiction problem and he was just never there. And when I was younger, he used to say, I was the reason that he used drugs. I was the reason that he used these things, because he would feel so guilty about not being a good dad that it would make him want to numb it. And so I lived a lot of my adulthood carrying around that burden of thinking that I was the reason that he abandoned me as a child, because he used what he did as an excuse, and I was the pawn, you know? So I feel like when you heal from a lot of things, PMDD has a way of bringing them back up, because I've done the work to heal from my childhood trauma. When I'm not in PMDD, I don't think about that. So that's how I know specifically that it's PMDD, because it used to be where I wasn't healed of my prior trauma. And so I immediately thought that, oh, PMDD is the reason why I'm having these thoughts. And I have these thoughts because of childhood trauma. And then I healed my childhood trauma by learning ways to cope with it. And it would only come up during PMDD, which let me know that PMDD was the cause of bringing up kind of a re-traumatization. As you all know, I'm getting my doctorate in PMDD studies, and re-traumatization is a method of when you have a traumatic event and then something reminds you of it and you go back through it all over again in your mind. And I feel like during PMDD, it brings up so many things that we think that we're over, that we think that we've dealt with. And it brings a lot of guilt. It brings a lot of shame, because it may be things that we don't want to talk about. It may be things that we thought we were over. And there's this sense of damage to our self-esteem when we get into PMDD, and we feel like we can't do the things we normally do. We can't say the things we normally would say. Our mind is not clear. And we get so frustrated. And we always talk about PMDD rage and how that's a thing. But the other side of PMDD rage is PMDD depression. And I'm a strong advocate. You know, if you haven't gotten my 10 ways to manage your PMDD rage in your relationship ebook, over the last weekend, I actually made it free for anyone that messaged me or went to my site, www.inlovewithpmdd.com. I was previously going to put it for sale and all these things, but I'm like, you know what? This is a resource that has helped so many people that I just want to give it as a gift to you, because I know that those 10 steps are 10 ways that have worked for several hundreds of clients that I've had, and I compiled them into an ebook. So if you go to my website, you can download the ebook for free. But on the other side of PMDD rage and that anger and all of that thing is PMDD depression. And both of those can equally damage your intimate relationship. And for me, the way that PMDD depression damages my relationship the most is I lose hope in doing the things for my partner, because I feel like my partner would be better off without me. I start to get so depressed that I don't think I'm worthy of the partner that I have. I start looking at their qualifications and I compare them to mine. And then I just think to myself, they would be better off without me. Maybe they should just find someone who doesn't have PMDD. It would be so much easier to be with someone who doesn't have PMDD. Why would they choose to be with me? When I'm continuously neglecting them, I'm saying things to them that I don't mean. I am doing things that I don't mean. And then I'm asking for forgiveness. Maybe, in your case, you may or may not be going through the process of asking for forgiveness after the fact. But as we know, PMDD goes on every single month. So at some point that gets a little bit old if you're not actively utilizing tools and changing your behavior. Just saying, I'm sorry, I'm in PMDD may not be enough. And that's the place that I get to when I'm in PMDD. I feel like my partner's high and I'm low. And it's such a lonely place to be because I don't feel, and I know that there's no one personally that I can talk to that would know what it's like to have PMDD. I would spend a lot of time explaining myself and going through the motions of trying to make sense of it when I can barely make sense of it to someone, and they wouldn't get it. And then it would frustrate me even more. So it's a lonely place to be if you don't have that outlet to talk about what it is that you're going through, which is why this past weekend, I shared the ugly part of being deep within PMDD depression because I was there and there was no escaping it. So in the past, I would try to distract myself and do other things like, oh, I'm going to keep myself really busy. Maybe I won't feel it. Maybe I won't think about it. And this particular time, as years have gone on, because I've had PMDD for so many years, over 15 years now, that you can't escape it. You have to ride the wave of PMDD. That's what I call it. The reason why I call it ride the wave of PMDD is that I don't take recreational drugs. I never have. But I remember one time I had I think it was a sprain or something. Like I pulled something in my traps and I had to go to the emergency room. Like it was so bad. And I stayed back in the waiting room for a long time. And then they hooked me up to all these things, this IV, all these things. I'm just waiting back there. And then the doctor comes in, anesthesiologist comes in. Anesthesiologist, that's what he was. And he was like, I'm going to give you something for your pain, because I was in excruciating pain. You know how you go to the doctor and they give you the chart and they say from a scale of 1 to 10, how much pain are you in? And I was in like a 9. And it hadn't gone away. And so he was like, I'm going to give you something for the pain, like while we're figuring out your treatment plan, all the things. And I remember I was laying there and I was a single mom at the time. I was not with my partner. I didn't have a partner. This was during the time that I had taken 2 years off to be single, and just really figure out how to manage PMDD, how to manage a relationship. I just took time off to figure that out. And when the anesthesiologist was like, I'm going to give you something for the pain, he didn't say what that specific thing was. And I think maybe that was smart because he didn't want to freak me out, but I was in a lot of pain. So he ended up giving me morphine. And I had an IV in my arm already because I was in a very warm place. I was in Hawaii. So I was probably dehydrated, all the things because it's hot. And when he put the morphine in the drip that was going straight to my bloodstream, straight to my arm, I freaked out. I had never felt such strong medication hit me so quickly. I started to see everything differently. Like I was like in a whole nother world and I was freaking out, but I was kind of like strapped down, not really strapped down with like, you know, how you think about it in the movies when you're in the nut house and they put the little straps on you. But I had so many cords and things tied to me that I was just like freaking out. And he came over to me, he looked at me, and he was like, calm down, just ride the wave. And I was, I'm in Hawaii. So I'm like, what wave? Like, I'm not even outside. Like, what are you talking about? And he was like, and he put his hand on my shoulder and he said, stop trying to fight it. Just ride the wave. And I sat back and I calmed down literally, like instantly, because I was trying to process what he was saying. And I rode the wave. What he meant by that was stop trying to fight what's going on in your mind. Stop trying to fight what's going on in your body and just accept it and ride the wave like a surfer. If a surfer tries to go against the wave, he's always going to end up falling. You can't win a fight against the wave. You can't win a fight against depression the way that you think. So a lot of times the way that I thought earlier in my journey before getting my degrees and all these things and learning, I used to think the way I need to fight depression is to just ignore it, to just pretend like it's not there, to just keep doing everything that I was doing when I'm not in PMDD. And that's how I fight it. And what that led to was burnout, which is a whole nother episode, which I will do because I feel like that's what a lot of us resort to, but it led to my burnout. So what he meant by ride the wave is when you're on a wave and you're on the surfboard, you're not questioning whether the wave is too high, whether it's too low, what it should be. You're not judging it. You're just recognizing that it's there. And you're just like, all right, I'm here. The wave is under me. If I'm going to stay above on this board, this surfboard, I need to just go within the direction that the wave is going in. And so with the morphine that he was putting in my body, the more I fought it by freaking out, the worse it made my heart rate go up. It intensified the experience. But when I got to a point where I was like, you know what, I'm going to ride the wave, I calmed down and allowed the medicine to come through my body and do the thing that it was supposed to do, which was I had so many knots and everything on my traps that had caused it to lock up. And that's what the pain was from. And so the morphine relaxed my muscles to allow the pain to go away. And that's what he meant by ride the wave. Like, let the medicine do what it's there to do versus trying to fight it. And I feel like with so many times in PMDD, we try to fight the depression so much by staying busy, by lashing out at our partner. Okay, so when you're in rage, PMDD rage, you have a lot of energy to lash out at your partner. When you're in PMDD depression, and I know I have the ability to do this, I used to be really ashamed about it, but like now I'm not so much anymore. But when you're in PMDD depression, you don't necessarily lash out at your partner with a lot of negative energy, but what you do is you neglect them. You abandon them. They say they need something, you tell them you don't have time. You're like, I'm just barely trying to make it. I don't have time for you. Just so you know, neglecting your partner is a form of emotional abuse. And it's something that's very common that we do when we're in PMDD depression because we don't feel like we have the energy to do anything else for ourselves, more or less our partner. And so outside of the neglecting our partner, what we do is say mean things. We start to criticize. It's basically you're treating your partner in a negative way because you're in a very negative place. You're also feeling like you want to push your partner away at times. You're like, I'm just going to say these things. I'm going to do these things because I've lost all hope that we're ever going to be together anyway. So like, I just might as well say what I want to say. And I don't know if you've ever been there in your relationship while in PMDD where you just feel like they're going to leave me anyway. they don't deserve me anyway. So I might as well just say what I want to say. And you go completely below the belt and you say all of these things and you end up regretting it later and replaying it in your mind again and again and again. It's almost like every time they look at you, when you see them, you're replaying what you said to them in your mind and you're feeling like a horrible person, an ugly person, a damaged person, a broken person, a person that doesn't deserve to have a partner. All of these things that you feel because you're associating yourself with the PMDD depression and what you did when you were in that state. And so this particular month, every month I feel like there's a theme for my PMDD. And I don't know if you're like me, but every month, one of my symptoms tends to go center stage, I call it. And they're like, I'm here. So last month, I believe it was PMDD anxiety. I had really bad anxiety during PMDD and it was very apparent. Like I couldn't ignore it. The month before that was fatigue. And I just feel like every month this is something different. So I wasn't expecting depression this month to hit me that hard. And I think that's almost even worse when you don't expect it, because then it's like you're preparing yourself for all of these other symptoms. But then when depression comes, you're like, And so I decided to share because, as I stated, for those who are not following me on Instagram, which you should be, I had a lot of childhood trauma. I dealt with PMDD for the majority of my life alone. I didn't have anyone to talk to. And I knew for a fact that dealing with PMDD depression alone is miserable because you don't have anyone to talk to. You don't have anyone to relate to. And you feel like if you tell someone, they're going to look at you like you're crazy, even though you feel really crazy. I feel like a lot of times us as PMDD partners, we feel crazy a lot of times, but we don't want anyone else to call us out on it. Like that would be the worst for me. Like if my partner said I'm crazy, that would be horrible for me, even though I think that myself all the time. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so crazy. Like when I'm in PMDD, but you never want your partner to think that about you. And so you can't talk to your partner about it. And so you go through all of these things of this miserable thought pattern of being alone, feeling depressed, trying to be normal and it not working, and then feeling further like you're defeated. And so I'm going to give you 5 strategies to overcome PMDD depression, to ease what it does for you and how it impacts your relationship, so that you don't further damage your PMDD relationship because you have PMDD depression, which is one of the symptoms that we are bound to have at some point. Even if you don't normally have it, I suggest you really take this in because there's a lot of months that I don't have it, but when I do, no bueno. It's not good. It's not fun. And I wish that I had somebody that I can talk to about it. So here we go. The first thing is when you're dealing with depression, and it may be the hardest thing to do, but that is you need to talk about it. So you need to let your partner know what it is that you're going through, because here's what's going to happen. You're going to be dealing with PMDD depression internally. They're not going to know what's going on. Maybe you don't tell them. And then they're going to create a story in their mind of what they think is going on. And when you start to create stories, you start to create assumptions. So we don't give our PMDD partners the information of what is going on with us on a day-to-day basis. They're going to start creating stories in their mind based off of their understanding about what's going on with us. And it may or may not be true. And then you're going to have to deal with what comes after that. So the best thing is Don't keep it to yourself. Go talk to your PMDD partner. Don't feel embarrassed about it. Don't feel like you can't talk to them. They're going to judge you. I know a lot of times when you are in a situation where you haven't repaired the damage from maybe the last PMDD or the PMDD before that, you feel like you don't want to tell your partner about your PMDD depression because they'll kind of throw it in your face and use it against you. And I actually thought that myself this last PMDD cycle. I was just talking to my partner and I was kind of like, we had like, not this last PMDD cycle, but the one before that. We had like a really bad time and we hadn't fully recovered from it. And so when I got into this PMDD depression, I was like, I don't even want to give them more ammunition as to what's going on with me, because I didn't want to hear from them later on in an argument that, oh, you're just doing that, or you're just saying that because you're PMDD depressed, or you're whatever. Like, that's the worst thing, is to be called out on PMDD when things could potentially not be about PMDD. So I have that fear, and a lot of us have that fear about fully opening up about what we're going through because we don't want it to be thrown in our face later on, specifically by our partner, because we care about their opinion. A lot of other people can say things and we don't really care about their opinion, but with your partner, you do. But in order for them to get an accurate understanding of what is going on with you, you just need to bite the bullet and tell them what's going on. And I did this this last PMDD cycle, and I was pleasantly surprised. I just did it in a way where I didn't try to sugarcoat it. So a lot of the times I don't want to burden my PMDD partner with a lot of things. He has a very stressful career, a life, we're long distance, like there's all of these things. So I don't want to burden him if I don't have to, but I was just in this state of desperation where I was suffering so much, so much, that I decided to just be raw and real and be like, you know what, this is what's really going on with me. And this is probably the most supportive he has ever been during PMDD. And I think it's because when I was at my weakest, darkest moment, he heard it. If he was with me, he could have seen it. And he just knew that I was suffering. Like, he knew. It wasn't like, oh, sometimes our partners can get a little bit resentful because we're in PMDD, because they think we use it as an excuse to not do things for them that they need. So they'll be like, oh, you could do more, but you're just choosing not to. And you're using PMDD as like a scapegoat. And that's a whole nother episode. Because when they get in that mindset of feeling like you're using PMDD as an excuse, you don't really get much out of them, and they don't really take what it is that you are doing for face value. But in this particular case, I just was like, you know what? I don't have time to play games. I'm just going to tell my partner what I'm going through. And I just literally poured out to him. I went on a walk with my dog, and Leo, my dog. And if you're on my Instagram, you would see my puppy. It's a beautiful, he's a Shih Tzu and a Maltese mix. He just turned 5 years old. He is my PMDD pet. Whenever I am going through it, which I have been lately, he has been on me like Velcro, like white on rice, and I love him for it. He's literally right here by my feet right now as I'm recording. But what I'm trying to say is, when I just went on that walk with my partner and told him everything that was going on, I didn't filter it. So when I say talk to your partner, I don't mean in a way that you feel like they're going to accept. Like, don't overanalyze it. Don't overthink it. You have to be as raw and honest as possible and just say literally how you feel. And it'll cause them to feel what you feel, to understand. But if you try to, I'm feeling a little bit bad, So this is something that I work with my private clients with on my 2-month private. breakup proof your PMDD relationship coaching program is communicating your suffering during PMDD to your partner in a way that they can actually understand, that'll make them supportive towards you versus judging you for being in PMDD. So there's a difference. You can be in PMDD and your partner is going to either do one or two things. They're either going to judge you and make you feel bad for being in PMDD because they're going to remind you of how much you're neglecting them, how much you're not giving them the things that they need, or they're going to feel really bad for you and choose to support you and not expect you to meet these high expectations because they're going to want to do whatever they can to relieve your pain. And so my goal as your coach when we're going through the private coaching is that I get you to the point to compel, influence, encourage your partner to be supportive versus being resentful. Supportive versus resentful, and then it helps you. The reason why I say it helps you and your partner is because when your partner when they feel supportive of you, they're going to start to do things to support you. And then that's going to make them feel good when they see that you appreciate it. So you're going to be getting what you need, which is a supportive partner. And they're going to be getting what they need, which is the satisfaction of knowing that they can relieve some of your pain. So when you just go out and talk to your partner about what it is that you're going through, no filter, they're going to be able to connect and understand. And then if you act out of character after you've told them how you're feeling, they'll have a lot more forgiveness, a lot more grace for you. Because they're going to remember, oh, she's in PMDD and she's feeling like this. So they're less likely to take it out on you versus if you just told it to them and you were very vague, like, I'm not feeling well today. And then you go off on them. Well, then they have to make up a story in their mind to like justify your behavior. So just skip all that, be open and honest and vulnerable and say exactly how you feel. That's number one. Talk about it. Don't be embarrassed about it. Don't be ashamed about it. And remember, you didn't ask for this. And I have to remind myself of that sometimes, because a lot of times when people go through things in their life, it's because they've made wrong decisions and they're paying for those wrong decisions. And so it's kind of like, I should have never made this turn in my life, but that's why I'm dealing with this. You didn't do anything specifically to cause yourself to have PMDD. It's not your fault that you have PMDD. So you shouldn't feel embarrassed to talk about it because it's something that's been put upon you and you're just doing your best to deal with it. And you are doing your best. So the second thing is to be involved with a community of people that are going through what you're going through. I'm going to have an offering a little bit later in the year, towards the end of the year, the holidays, to create a PMDD Partners community. And if that's something that you would be interested in, DM me on Instagram. That's where everyone can talk to me. I literally talk to PMDD Partners all day long. So if you haven't DM'd me, I don't know what you're waiting for, but that's where I talk to a lot of you, hundreds of you a day. And I really feel like it's so beneficial that even if you're not my private client, that you're getting that one-on-one interaction with somebody that you don't have to explain to me. Matter of fact, I wanted to record this, but I didn't. My last private client that I had towards the end of the session, that is in my 2-month PMDD Breakup Proof, Your PMDD Relationship coaching program, she actually said, the best part of coaching with you or what I love the most is I don't have to explain what PMDD feels like to you so that you understand what I feel like. Like I start telling you about what I'm going through and you immediately understand. And that's so true because I go through it myself. So that literally goes into my third point, which is seek PMDD specific professional help. I cannot tell you how many clients that I have had that have, I don't want to say wasted, they have spent their money on getting counselors, on getting therapists who don't know what PMDD is. They're not trained in it. Number one, there is no training on it. Okay, so I just want to make that clear. And then also, they don't have it. And PMDD is not necessarily something that you can textbook, where you can read about it. And that's why PMDD partners have such a problem getting an article from you or a blog or a book that is like, oh, here's what PMDD is, like, here you go. You don't learn like that with PMDD because everything is in the experience. You learn the most about PMDD because you experience it, because you know what those things feel like. And if you don't get PMDD specific help for your relationship, it's not going to work. I've said this once, will continue to say it. I got a therapist, I got a counselor when I was going through relationship issues. And what happened was it would work when I wasn't in PMDD. So the tools did work. I'm not bashing other counselors, therapists. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that it will work when you're in your follicular phase, when you're in your clear mind, when you're in your good days. Then all of the tools that they're saying that they have will work during that time. However, when I got into PMDD, everything went out the window. It just didn't work because number one, I didn't use the tool. I wasn't in that space to use the tools that they gave me because I was feeling completely different and I needed to get out of that place before I could use anything valuable. So if you are not seeking PMDD professional help, think about it. Think to yourself, do you have a counselor? Do you have a therapist? Do you have a coach? If they are not knowledgeable on PMDD, don't blame them, but also don't expect them to give you the results of anything that you have going on when you're in PMDD. I've talked to so many practitioners from all around the world who are lost in the sauce when it comes to PMDD, and they're just trying to grasp it. And it may take some time. I'm not losing hope because, as I told you before, I'm getting my doctorate in PMDD studies, and I'm not losing hope that there will someday be a community of doctors, professionals, and everything that knows about PMDD. I'm just saying they're not there yet because I have the behind the scenes of the research and it's not there yet. Like the research has not been done, which is why I'm specifically doing my dissertation on PMDD relationships, so that when some doctor is trying to figure out what to tell you, that they can have something to reference, because so many times these doctors are getting into the mindset of, oh, maybe this isn't a thing because I don't see it in the literature. And it's like, no, chicken nugget, this is a thing. Like, I'm not playing with you. This is not, like, I wouldn't come here if this wasn't an actual thing. So get PMDD specific help. Save your money, save your time, because I'll tell you what's going to happen. You're going to drag your partner through the ringer. They're going to get tired of it because they're going to be talking to a counselor, a therapist, a coach who doesn't know about PMDD. And that may be your one chance where you're like, oh, they're finally agreeing to go to therapy. If you want them to go to therapy, to go to counseling, to go to coaching, to better your relationship, it better be the best of the best. Because if you waste their time, good luck getting them to go anywhere else with you. It's kind of like if your friends are like, oh, let's go to this concert with my favorite artist, and you get there and they're trash. Well, the next time your friend calls you and it's like, hey, let's go somewhere, you're going to be like, no, I'm not going with you. Because you're going to be thinking in your mind, or you're going to make up an excuse because you're going to be thinking in your mind that the last thing that you invited me to was trash. The same thing happens with getting professional help for your relationship. When you have PMDD, don't waste your partner's time by taking them to someone who doesn't know what PMDD is, who you're explaining what PMDD is to them. You're giving them the money and you're paying them. Like, don't do that. I get rid of a lot of time in coaching sessions by finishing their sentence because I already know what you're about to say. I already know what you're feeling. You can start to tell me. The partner can start to talk to me. We can talk about it, but you don't have to give me the basics of what PMDD is. I would rather you talk to me about your specific situation so that we can customize the tools to what you specifically need versus you telling me the symptoms of PMDD. That's wasting your time. You don't really have the energy to do it, and you shouldn't have to do it when you're paying for help. So that's the second thing. Get specific PMDD professional help. The third thing is, or the fourth thing is, so the first thing, in case you're writing this down, number one, talk about it with your PMDD partner. Number two, have a PMDD specific community. Number three, seek professional help from a PMDD expert. Number four, which is something that I know all of you are dreading. Maybe you like it, maybe you don't, maybe you despise it, maybe you don't. Moving your body. Surprisingly, moving your body can make you feel better when you're depressed. And I know because I just lived the past weekend in my robe. I did do my morning routine, but like after that, I spent the rest of my day in my robe because I didn't want to get up. I didn't want to go anywhere. But at the end of the day, so there's a balance to this. If you're in that negative headspace with the intrusive thoughts and you have all this stuff going on, yes, I advise you to get up and do something in the form of exercise. You can yoga, you can walk, you can jog, you can swim, you can go to the gym and lift. I never tell you specifically what movement you have to do. I just want you to do what makes you feel your best. I have a morning routine. Again, if you follow me on Instagram, you see me every single day. I do something to move my body that makes me feel my best that particular day, because the endorphins that are released during working out can bring relief from my depression and make me feel like I'm strong enough to fight it. That is the most important part of my morning routine of working out, of moving my body, is that it makes me feel like I'm strong enough to fight PMDD. And some days I need that reminder because I feel like a weak little wimp that is being beat up by PMDD because all of the symptoms are coming one after the other. And I just need that reminder that I can get through it. And so I use exercise as a way to remind me of who I am, which is why I have this beautiful yoga mat that I do all my exercises on that are full of I am statements. And it's just reminding me of who I am. When I get finished with a workout, I feel stronger. Not that I feel strong, not that I feel like I'm, completely on top of things, but I feel way stronger than I would have after 30 to 40 minutes if I was just laying in the bed. The balance of that is yoga, walking. You can do things where you're moving your body, but number one, you're still getting those endorphins, but you're not beating yourself down. You're not tearing yourself down. You're not going to get into a burnout. I'm not saying get into that manic stage of spending 2 hours at the gym and shutting out the world. And hey, if some days that's what you need, then that's what you need. But what I'm saying is a sustainable lifestyle is to find something that balances all of that. So get the endorphins, however it is that you choose to get it. You can dance around. I remember during COVID, I used to have dance parties because I didn't want to go to the gym. I didn't have a home gym. And I would literally have like morning dance parties just to give me those endorphins because I knew that they made me feel better. The next tip, and I'm partial to this because, I have Leo, my puppy, who is not really a puppy. He's just small. He's 5 years old, so it's 35 in dog years. But get a pet. So animals of all sorts. It doesn't have to be a dog. It could be a cat. It could be a bird. It could be actually, if you get a rat or anything like that, like good on you. But they help for depression. Caring for a pet, it really strengthens your ability to take on responsibility. It takes you out of yourself. So when I know that I have to walk my dog every single day, I may not feel like waking up every morning, but I know that my dog has to go out for a walk. So that's my guaranteed 20, actually it's a guaranteed hour of being outside, because in the mornings, for some odd reason, my dog needs like 30 minutes in the morning and 30 minutes in the evening. He just like chooses where he wants to pee. He smells everything. And, I get it. I get it. If I have to go to work and you're in the house, like you want to maximize your time. So I guaranteed have 30 minutes outside a day. And it does make a difference, because a lot of times, if it wasn't for my dog Leo, I would not even go outside. And that is I'm completely honest with that. I wouldn't even go outside because I just don't feel like it. I feel like I just want to curl up. I literally have to take off my robe in order to take him on a walk. And that in itself is like a feat. It's like a sense of accomplishment, because that means I have to put on regular clothes. So a lot of times what you don't realize is the biggest part of depression is getting dressed for the day. Because all you want to do is wake up, turn over, stay in your pajamas, eat all the yummy food, watch Netflix, scroll through social media and look at everybody's life and how great it is, and compare it to yours and think about how horrible yours is, and just stay in that dark place. You don't have to get dressed in order to do that. You can call off work, you can do all the things. But when you have to take your pet out, that forces you to get dressed in something. Now, I've gone in yoga pants and like sweatpants and a hoodie with my hood up. Like I've gone in weird ways, but I've gone in more than I would have gone in if I was just staying in the house, if that makes any sense. So actually getting that pet really did help me. And whether you're an animal lover or not, I always believe that they have something that they can contribute for you. I feel like I wanted to say something else about one of my client calls, I believe. And that is, they were asking me, I was pulling up my client notes. They were asking me, how do I know if I'm depressed? Well, there are so many different types of depression, and it's important for you to identify the type of depression that you suffer from so you can get the most effective treatment, because everybody's depression doesn't look the same. So there's clinical depression, there's chronic depression, and it's depression that's just triggered by specific events. So what I do with my private clients is, before I even treat them for that, I understand what kind of depression it is. It's not just about PMDD. It's about monitoring the triggers. What made this come up? So for me, what triggers my depression is my childhood trauma. And that is one of the most important things to realize, is that every symptom that you have is triggered by something else. And so depression, you have your specific trigger for that. And the more that you're aware of that, the more you can shut it down and kind of like be more self-aware and be like, okay, I know this is going to happen. So for me, this past month, I had the trigger of childhood trauma, which caused my depression because of the circumstance that happened with my biological father and how that happened. And so it came up and it was in the back of my mind. That's another thing. Whatever you have in your subconscious in the back of your mind that you're trying to avoid is probably going to come up during PMDD. I don't like it. I'm not a fan. of the fact that I can effectively not deal with a lot of things. And then I get in PMDD and all of a sudden they come up and I'm like, oh, I wasn't even trying to deal with that. But with PMDD, you have no freaking choice. So when you discover what triggers your depression, you can take a moment to recognize the thoughts that are behind it, right? So when I say monitor your thoughts, your thoughts are feeding your depression. So what negative thoughts are you having? Observe your thoughts, don't judge them, to understand what's going on. For example, jealousy can lead to intense depression. If you find yourself feeling jealous of your PMDD partner, maybe you need to understand why. Do you have trust issues with them? So a lot of the issues that you have with your PMDD partner, it comes out during PMDD because you're in that place where you're so vulnerable, you're not able to ignore all of the things. And you need to replace those negative thoughts that you have about your partner, those negative thoughts that you have about your PMDD relationship, and replace them with positive thoughts. Positive thoughts. And I actually write them down. One day I'll take a picture of it, but you're not going to believe it. In my bathroom, because I'm very big on quotes and all the things. In my bathroom, I have a framed marriage certificate in a frame. And then so my partner actually made this. There was one time I wrote him a letter. We used to write each other notes like by hand and then give them to each other because we're long distance. So we would give them to each other so that they can take them with them. And then anytime they wanted to read them, they could read them again. Yes, we could email, but I mean, we weren't trying to email. We were trying to be very original in the moment. And so I wrote him this letter with like a mechanical pencil. I believe it's my daughter's mechanical pencil. And I wrote him a letter that just told him how I was choosing him, how I love him, how I care about him, all of the things. I wrote him this letter and he must have thought so highly about it that he took our marriage certificate and then he framed half the marriage certificate, which is really the whole thing. So there's this big frame where it's like half the marriage certificate is on top and then the letter that I wrote him is on there on the bottom. And I put it in the bathroom because I need that reminder about who I really think my partner is, what I know that they are to me. Because when I get into PMDD, I get really depressed over what I think that they think, what I think that they're going to do, what I think they're going to say, how I think that they feel. And that letter is just something that centers me, right? So I suggest that you use something that you know brings you back to your partner to where you can see them in that light and be able to shift your thoughts from that depressed state about your relationship, because sometimes all you need to do is say something positive about your relationship to your partner and they're going to reinforce that for you. They're going to tell you how much they love you, how much they care about you, because you're saying it. But again, if you're in that place where you have a lot of stuff to heal with your PMDD partner, like a lot of wounds that need to be healed before you can get to this place to where they can help you get over this depression, you need to apply for my 2-month private coaching, because the sooner that you're able to heal those wounds, the sooner that these tools are going to work. So I would hate to be giving you these tools and you're just not in a place for them to work because there's so much hurt there. And that's what I've dealt with a lot of the clients that I've been working with recently, is that there's so much hurt that the partner has felt that it's taking us, before we can get to a lot of these tools, we're having to address that pain and that hurt and get those walls down. And I've seen it. Once they do get down, then everything that I tell you, you start implementing them, your partner starts implementing them, you're going to have an amazing relationship. amazing relationship, but you have to start putting in the work, doing the things to repair the damage that you've done during PMDD, because it's not going to go away. At the end of the day, everything that you said and done, it's like honestly playing on repeat in your partner's mind. So even if you never say it again and you never do it again, your partner's going to remember it because there's nothing that you've done to replace it. There's a reprogramming that has to happen in order for you all to really move forward. And I want that for you. I want you to not have to look back at PMDD and it be this cloud hanging over your head because you feel like, oh, I wonder if they remember this. They do. Whether even though your partner really wants to just move forward and live life and be happy with you, they still remember everything from the past. And you do too. And there's a lot of guilt that goes through that and a lot of shame. And in order for you to move forward, you need to deal with that. So I have my 2-month private PMDD coaching, and I have a couple of clients that they're not coming as a couple. They're coming just one of them. But I also know that I've had sessions where it is one person for a while and then it's 2 people. And that's completely fine. That's actually really good because they deal with a lot of the trauma, a lot of the guilt, a lot of the shame, a lot of the things that they need to deal with on their own, the ones that are suffering with PMDD, who need to overcome all the damage that they've done. And then when they have additional sessions with their partner, it's better because they're healed and they're not continuously damaged. So this 2-month private PMDD coaching is 2 months. So maybe you take 1 month and you take it for yourself and you say, I'm going to invest in myself. I'm going to do this for myself to heal all of the crap that PMDD has done to my relationship. I'm the one that caused a lot of it, and I just need to get to that point where I'm dealing with it. And then maybe after the 4 weeks, your partner joins you and you all just work on your relationship. But again, nothing works until you do. And it doesn't have to be super hard, but it does have to be intentional. So what I said to a client earlier this week, it's Tuesday. So what I said yesterday was, what is it going to cost you if you would have chosen not to do this? Because they were saying, I'm so glad. It was so hard for me to get started and just make the decision to work with you. But I knew that it was something, I felt that pull. I knew that it was something that I needed to do. And I said, you're so happy in the place that you're at right now with just only 2 sessions. What do you think would have happened within this same time period, this 2-week time period to your relationship? Continuous damage, maybe? Continuous resentment, continuous bitterness, continuous guilt. We heal by moving forward. We heal by going in a direction that's different from the one that we're currently going in. We don't heal by doing the same things. Things are not going to just get better, especially with PMDD, by just doing the same thing. It doesn't work like that, because if time could heal all, time can't heal all when you've said and done things that have been below the belt. There has to be some healing with that and some intentional healing so that you can move forward, so that you can have a fresh slate. So it's not about throwing away the whole relationship and thinking, oh, it's just so damaged because I've done things and I've said things that I don't mean. It's not about that. It's about taking the courage, moving forward and saying, you know what? I've done and said things that I don't mean to my PMDD partner, but they mean enough for me to move forward and try to correct it. And with a lot of things that we've done in PMDD, a simple sorry won't work. I tried that. I tried to just say sorry to my partner, and at the time he's like, okay, but he didn't really forgive me. He didn't really forgive me. He did not. And I didn't expect him to, because what we do in PMDD is so below the belt that a simple apology is not enough. It's not. And I know that it even takes a lot to say I'm sorry, but that's just the bare minimum. You know, saying you're sorry means that you're a good human. And now what are you going to do about it? Like, that's what my partner literally said to me. And I was like, oh my gosh. He was like, yeah, I understand that you apologize. Now, where's the action behind it? And I was like, what? I was like, oh my God. Like, he was waiting to see what was I going to do to repair the damage that I had done. Not just the words, but he was waiting to see. How are your actions going to be different? What techniques are you using? What tools are you using? How are you being there for me? All these things I teach you within my 2-month private coaching. But if you don't come out with new things, they're going to give up, because they're going to be like, I already know how this is going to go. It's going to be more of the same. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to take the time. And so when you're addressing your partner as far as working on your PMDD relationship, you have a very small, tight window of opportunity to present what it is that you want to do to make your relationship better, because they're already fed up. So like, if you're feeding them some BS, like, they're going to catch on to that and they're going to be out. They're going to be like, you know what? I'm not doing that. I don't want to do that. No, like, no. So if you know that you're in that place, go to the link in my bio, go to www.inlovewithpmdd.com and apply to work with me so that we can get you started on stop doing the damage in your PMDD relationship and having the one that you desire and deserve. I hope these PMDD Trauma Transformational Tools help you and your PMDD partner. I am so excited to announce that I am opening up 10 spots for my exclusive 2-month private PMDD relationship coaching called Breakup Proof Your PMDD Relationship. Within these 2 months, I will be working with you one-on-one to give you customized strategies to ensure that you and your PMDD partner stop the monthly breakups and stress, so that you can have the supportive relationship that you desire and deserve. I am only opening up 10 spots, so go to my website at www.inlovewithpmdd.com or DM me on Instagram at inlovewithpmdd and grab your spot now. It's time to start actively working on your PMDD relationship. Remember, love is not just a feeling, it's an action. And I know that your PMDD relationship is worth not only saving, but working on, so that you both can be at peace with your PMDD relationship. If you found this podcast helpful, please comment and leave me a 5-star review to help other PMDD partners find our episodes. With all these tools and support, this is how you can help support the show and other PMDD partners. For everything that as PMDD partners go through, we should not have to do it alone. Until next time, remember, we can have the relationship that we desire and deserve while having PMDD. We got this.